So, welcome to my new channel, everybody. So, yeah, I thought I'd first of all start my first video on this channel and just sort of ponder on the question about what actually is spirituality. It's something that some people may just dismiss as being a little bit out there and a little bit spacey and a bit freaky and all that kind of thing. You know, there's like people I'm aware of that just say, "Oh, well, a load of old tosh" and all that, and it's kind of, that's not an issue. Everybody has their own way that they want to live, and that's fine. But for me, spirituality is just a natural way of living. Enlightenment is all it is a clear perception of what the actual truth is. That's all enlightenment is. People might think that it's some kind of like you're sitting there meditating and you become some kind of transparent being. There is that side to it, but really all enlightenment is that you see reality for how it is. It's as simple as that. That's the best way that I can think to describe it. The reason that I thought I'd start making these kind of videos is because I've always been kind of a deep thinker throughout my life. Like when I was young, I always pondered the bigger questions: why we're here, what's the correct way to live, what's our place in the universe. It's always been there. I've always had a relatively normal, I said relatively because I don't suppose anybody has a normal upbringing, but I've always pondered those questions when I was young, when I was, you first start going out drinking and things like that, and, I've always been into like sci-fi and philosophy, things like that. But as I became through my adult life, certain challenges arose, disasters, whatever you want to call them, and it kind of pushed me even deeper into a place in my life where I didn't have any other option but turn to what might be considered spirituality. I read a book that changed my life, which is, probably the most popular spiritual book there is. It was The Paranormal by Eckhart Tolle. So I read that, and it just, something changed. As soon as I read that book, something immediately changed, where I knew that I'd been living in a false way. And not because there was anything wrong with me, but because I hadn't been taught correctly. And it's not to place but I don't mean by my parents. I'm not placing the blame on anybody else. We're all here to find our own path, but there is a certain truth to the fact that we aren't taught in society and schools the very basic things that we need. I'm not going to go into that in too much detail. That's probably for another video. But it kind of made me realise, and it set me on a different path and a different way of living and interacting with people. And I've seen significant changes in the way that I interact with people, the way that I look at things. And let's just get one thing clear: I would never claim to be some kind of guru, some kind of enlightened person. I say it very well, but I do not live it day to day. I get frustrated, I get angry, I get rage. I deal with it better, and I know how to observe it. And there's times when I handle it brilliantly, and there's times when I just totally lose the plot. And however, the reason that I kind of wanted to start making these videos is I was talking to a friend, and I was offering them some kind of my advice, and it was, my advice always has a basis in any situation of spirituality, of the root of the issue that you've got. I remember just sort of talking and saying, well, look at it this way, look at it that way, and the person was like just kind of mesmerised and said, you should make videos about these. And I think I explained it quite well. It's difficult to say that without sounding like an egotistical tosser, but I do think I have something to offer in that I can say these things from a down-to-earth way. Sometimes there's some amazing teachers out there and videos on YouTube. Some of them they're a little bit too deep, and they explain it too textbook. So I'd like to think my way is a little bit more down to earth for people that have a similar outlook to me. So it was just something that I thought, well, why not? I've already made some. One of my strengths in life and my work and things like that is communication. So I think I'm good at explaining things. So it's kind of, if one person gets something out of these videos, that it's mission accomplished. I'm not doing it for money or anything like that. So that's kind of it, really. I mean, there's so much. I could just talk about this kind of stuff forever and ever and just yap on. I really could. It never gets old, and whatever you can kind of approach is always fresh and new. But yeah, the first video I just wanted to talk about what spirituality is, and like I said, I got into it inadvertently, and then it's kind of been about 6 years, but no, 5.5 years it's been since I read that book and something changed. God, I can't believe it. And during that time, there hasn't a day that's been by. There isn't a day that hasn't gone by where I haven't used this change in perception to some degree, or it's changed the way that I've approached something, or a decision that I've made, or the way I've spoken to someone. So it's had quite a profound effect. So, like I said, spirituality is simply a way of looking at things from the truth. It's a way of being more grounded. We all are, and it's impossible to not go a little bit too out there. We all are spiritual beings, whether you realise it or not. If you get down to the only thing as a human being that you can know for sure, the only thing that you cannot question, you can question everything. You can question whether you're really here. You can question whether your reality is a dream. You can question that whether what you're looking at is a hologram. You can question whether everybody else on the planet is actually here and it's just you. You can question everything. The only thing that you cannot question, the only thing, is that you are. You know that you are. That feeling that is so familiar that it gets overlooked and it gets covered up by your mind. And spirituality, in my opinion, is a way of separating you from your mind and learning to really figure out who you are at your deepest essence. And that's, I believe, really important. Because if you don't, you live in a false life, and it may seem great on the surface, but ultimately it won't be. You have to be connected, and some people are. It's like the most spiritual person I know has never read a spiritual book in his life. He's just a naturally in tuned person with who he is. There's no ego, so you don't have to be some kind of spiritual person or consider yourself. To consider yourself spiritual is just a concept in your mind. That's your mind again. That's not who you are. Thoughts, ideas, conclusions that you come to about people, opinions, that's just all your mind. When you get to your deepest essence of who you really are, you're the awareness behind it. You are that I that is always there, that thing that you cannot doubt. What is there to look at things? You don't. If you think about your vision and your hearing, what is it that hears and sees? It's not your eyes. Your eyes are the tool to see, but behind it is the consciousness that perceives it and hears the sounds. It's like the old ancient sort of proverb of, if a tree falls in the woods, and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? And then initially you might say, well, of course it does. Well, if there's no one there to hear it, a sound cannot exist, because you need the organ, which is the ear, and then that decodes that information and translates it to the brain. But more importantly, well, the only thing that's important is you need a consciousness behind that to perceive it. Otherwise, a sound is nothing. A sound is just vibrations that are being picked up. And your consciousness perceives it as a sound. And it's exactly the same with sight. So it's what you are at your deepest essence. And if you focus on that, everything becomes a little bit more straightforward. And the thing is, we live in such a challenging world. It's more complicated than it's ever been. And that's natural as time goes on. The problem that we've got is technology and everything else is moving quicker than we are. And that's why the planet is in a mess. I think it was Einstein that said you cannot solve a problem on the same level of consciousness that created it in the first place. And what that means is we need to have this shift in consciousness, otherwise we're doomed. There isn't any guarantee that as a planet we're going to make it. There will always be some kind of survival. I don't want to get too preachy, but consciousness will find another way of expressing itself if the human race doesn't survive. But that's a different matter. That's another matter for another video. So yeah, it's just about the truth ultimately. And if you think about it, we have a tendency not to exist in the truth. And now, as I was saying, because the world is so challenging, smartphones, the perfect tool to control the masses. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories. I mean, I've got a smartphone, and I'm always conscious that I spend too much time looking at it. And it's not healthy. It really, really isn't. And I'm sure you don't need me to patronise you to tell you that, but we're programmed to look at our phones. We're checking Facebook to see what people are doing and what nonsense is being put on there. And 99% of it is total drivel. And you don't need to know that information. You don't need to know what your next door neighbour's having for his tea, or which cats fell off a couch into a bucket of water. It can be used for entertainment and it can be fun. And there's always that aspect of life. Let's not take it too seriously, because you shouldn't. Because if you do, you'll literally go mad. It's always important to have a good laugh, and that's the earliest teachers of the Buddha. You see the statues of the Buddha, and he's always smiling, and that is just as if to say, don't take life too seriously. Have a laugh. You should do. Laughter is what it is. It's recognising the human condition and how sort of silly it can be. That's what human is. That's what humour is, and that's very important. But it's about a balance. There's the seriousness and the silliness, and you've got to find that balance. If one's too high and the other's too low, you have dysfunction. So for me, do I consider myself a spiritual person? Well, we all are. Every single one of us. Even the most horrible person that you can imagine, and it's really difficult, is a spiritual person. We all are. Whether you consider yourself spiritual or not is totally irrelevant. That's just a concept in your mind that has no ultimate reality. And that's one of the most important aspects of spirituality, is separating your mind from who you truly are. And you're never more who you truly are than when your mind is quiet and you're still and silent. Ultimately, your personality is nothing more than an illusion. Your personality is made up, is your conditioning. It's how you were brought into the world, what you were exposed to, what culture you were exposed to, your education, how your parents treated you, what other kind of people there were growing up, how much stimulus you had as a child. All those things, hundreds of millions of variations, create your personality. And that's not to say that there's nothing real. Of course, there's the consciousness behind it. But it's in my opinion, it's very important not to get caught up on, I'm this person, I'm a brash, and I'm this, and I will say that. That's a lot of bollocks. Of course, if you're passionate about something, that's fine. But, don't say, I'm this person, and I'm that, and I say this, and I say that. It's, well, okay, but let's not take it too seriously. So hopefully, I wanted to make a quick short video because it's the first one on this channel. It isn't the future videos that I'm going to do be about a more specific topic. This is just a general idea of my take about things. And hopefully some people will get something out of it. Because it's like I said, I've noticed that when I'm talking to friends and they're asking for advice, it seems to go down very well. So if I can reach more people, I sound like such a pompous asshole, but I don't mean to. What I mean is, if just, like I said earlier, if just one person can get something out of it, it's great. And from a purely selfish point of view, when I'm getting these things off my chest, it's actually good for me as the person. Because although the person is kind of an illusion, it's still there and it's something that I have to deal with. Otherwise, I can't function in this world. We're here on this planet and we've got this body and this mind, and we've got to learn best how to use it. It's about having the balance. There's being, which is your true self, and doing, interacting with the world. And it's about having that balance and, realising what you're good at, what you're here to do. And so, yeah, right. So I'll leave it there for the time being, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Just please give me some constructive criticism. Just let me know if you've enjoyed it or not. If there's anything that you've got out of it, anything, I've got so many ideas for videos that I'm going to do. But if you've got anything specific that you think would be good to cover, anything at all about the world today, about people, anything like that, about certain aspects of spirituality, pain, acceptance, love, relationships, things like that. Or if you want to know more about me or something, that's great. So, really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good day.